It's time for the waiver wire edition of 2022. What?
Wait a minute, Smitty. It's August 20th.
That's right, Bob. We're doing the week one, the pre-week one waiver wire show. Let's talk about all the players that might be on your waivers right now. In leagues you've already drafted in. We'll try and talk dynasty. We'll try and talk redraft. I'll try and preemptively get you ready for week one because some of these guys you might not be able to grab. You got smaller benches, but I want you to know who they are. I want you to keep them on your radar. This is where leagues can be won. Sometimes you've got to just monitor these guys, but I want you aware and in places where you can grab them. Existing leagues, redraft, dynasty, doesn't matter. The point is I want you to pick them up before it is too late, or get them on your radar so you're ready to pounce when you need to. Your boy Smitty does waiver wire better than anybody else, and I'm going to show you why. Eli Mitchell, I told everyone to draft in 2021, but because he was available in so many leagues walking into week one, I had him as my number one pickup of the year. That's right, I do a confidence level score with the top guy on the list each week, and pre-week one is no different. The confidence level of that player being the best player and best pickup for the entire fantasy season. Because I don't know how much you need to spend in your league. Only you know how much you need to drop wattage-wise on a player from your fab based on historical fab dropping. I couldn't possibly know. If somebody comes out and tells you should spend 25% on player X and 22% on player B, they don't know what they're talking about because your league's different than my league. Bob's league is different than Worried William. Upset Unger has a different league than Fantasy Karen. No, I can't tell you how much to drop. Only you can know that based on historical data in your league. Are people conservative? Do you have to drop $100 out of 100 to pick up any relevant player? What I will do is give you my confidence level that the player we're talking about is going to be or not going to be the best pickup of the year. Last year, Eli Mitchell got a score of 9 out of 10. In week one, that he would be the best pickup of the year, and he was. The Fantasy Football Show
begins now.
This is the Fantasy Football Show with your host, Smitty.
Take a lap.
Okay, so here's how we do it here on the weekly, the waiver wire show. I can't possibly know how much fab to drop on a player. Only you know that. I don't know if you're working with a bunch of Worried Williams who never spend more than 20% of their fab, or maybe your league's full of overreactive Olivers who drop $100 out of 100. Every time you want somebody, you have to drop your full load droppage. I couldn't possibly know that, but what I do know, what I do have is a particular set of skills that make me a nightmare for your league mates, skills I've acquired over a long career, skills that give me the ability to say this player has this percentage chance of being the best pickup of the year. That's right. That's how we do it. My top one or two waiver wire guys for the week. We won't put everybody through the scale. That'd be meaningless, but the top waiver wire pickup or pickups of the week, the top one or two, maybe three, we will plot on the scale from 1 up to 10 of the likelihood of being the best pickup of the entire season. Let's kick off
all this awesomeness with
the number one waiver wire guy for right now, walking into week one. Maybe you've already drafted, maybe you haven't drafted yet, and you want to know who you might want to look out for at the end of your draft, because I'm telling people you need to go grab them. So this is going to help a lot of you who haven't drafted yet, because you're going to be saying, man, I don't want to be sitting here after the draft going, I should have drafted these guys. Smitty's telling me to pick them up. So even better if you haven't drafted yet. But if you have drafted yet and these guys are sitting out on waivers, you're gonna have a good indication whether you should go pick them up or not. Or you're in a league where your benches are really tiny. You need to know who to keep on your monitor radar so you can monitor the rises and falls of these guys and get a jump on them entering your week one. I'm here for you either way. Let's dig into the top guys to pick up heading into week one. Pre-week one waiver wire, baby. Number one on the list is Brian Robinson. I'd probably say that Isaiah Pacheco is going to be maybe number 2 or number 3. Tyler Algiere, you need to make sure, let's spell it right, Smitty. Tyler Algiere could be 3 or 2, and I might add somebody as we go. But right here, these are kind of my favorite top 3 guys to pick up right now. If you've already drafted or if you haven't drafted, be aware to grab them at the end of your draft or appropriately. Like Brian Robinson, you can't draft at the end of the draft anymore. This was a guy that went undrafted. If you've drafted, check your waiver wire. If you play with a lot of oblivious Oscars, they may not be hitting the waiver wire right now. Go make sure Brian Robinson isn't there. His ADP is going to climb to about round 8, 9, 10, or 11. Anywhere in there, depending on the news. Why, you might ask? Have you been living under a rock? Antonio Gibson Robinson has just become one of the better handcuffs in fantasy football 2022. You heard me right. He's a backup. He's potentially a backup now to Brian Robinson already. Brian Robinson was anointed the goal line guy in everyone's mind. I mean, officially, who knows? But right now, we know Brian Robinson is not only starting preseason games, looking good, has all the media buzz and hype, probably almost certainly has all the goal line work, and in a very worst case scenario is probably splitting time with Gibson. So if he's got all the goal line work and short yardage work and at least half of the up the gut carries, maybe a whole bunch of the PPR stuff, who knows what McKissick does to that workload divide. You've got the overall volume monster in Brian Robinson. So Gibson is now a handcuff. While we're fading Gibson, let me point out that you're still drafting. If you go off ADP, you may not want to use ADP at all in this scenario because it's trying to catch up to what's going on. But if you do draft Brian Robinson and Gibson together, you might have to draft Gibson first and Brian Robinson second. But until they switch ADPs and the values catch up, you got to do what you got to do. But it's a crafty flex player to own. Gibson's falling to round 8. Brian Robinson's climbing. He may not be at round 8 or 9 or 10 value yet on the regular because people are still kind of like coming into fantasy right now. A lot of unprepared people grabbing their fantasy magazines, rushing to the computer, ready to draft, and they're trying to catch up. So they don't really even know Brian Robinson's supposed to be drafted above Gibson. So right now, you're like at that limbo period. But together, 8th round and beyond, you're getting both of them beyond round 8 or at round 8 and beyond. It's a darn good running back duo to cuff, and Gibson's the cuff if you botch running back 2 shopping or if you botch filling your flex spot. I'm just telling you, it's a fantastic running back 3 or emergency running back 2 because you screwed up your running back 2. Commanding all the goal line work, potentially getting maybe 8 to 10 touchdowns this year, Brian Robinson. Sky's the limit for what he can do in the PPR game and the first, second, and third down game. Could be a 3-down back. He quite arguably, as of this moment, is the best pickup of the year as of this moment. That could change in week 1. That can change in week 2. Injuries can open the door to an even better pickup every single week for the first, 4 or 5 weeks of the season. Week 10, something could happen. But as of right now, this guy sits in this range here. I'm going to put him at a 7.5 out of 10 odds of being the best pickup of 2022. Probably won't remain there. Someone's going to come in and knock him off and be an 8 or an 8.5 or a 9. Last year, coming out of week 1, your boy Smitty called Eli Mitchell a 9 to a 9.5 out of 10 for being the best pickup of the year. And he was. Not to mention, I said draft him, cuff him to Sermon. Him and Sermon together are a win-a-league handcuff. Yeah, the Sermon part failed, but Mitchell was tied to that prediction, so the prediction hit a home run. A 9 to 9.5 out of 10. B-Rob, we're not there yet. We're not going to anoint the first person we come across as a 9 or a 10, but this guy has 7.5 potential out of 10 value on this highest percentage chance of being the number 1 ad of the year. Now, I'm not going to plot everybody on here because it makes no sense once you get past the first, guy or 2. But Pacheco's got the same kind of upside. He really does. You could put him like at 7. Why do I like Isaiah Pacheco? Isaiah Pacheco could really be a diamond in the rough. I like Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I still believe Clyde has the best opportunity out of all these running backs here because he knows the offense is one of the most complicated playbooks and offenses in the NFL. He played at 160 pounds last year instead of 205 to 209. That's about 50 pounds. He came in 50 pounds lighter than normal because of the gallbladder surgery. And no one really knew that. He just came in, he worked hard, under-delivered, but he's playing at almost 50 lbs light. So I feel bad for Clyde, and I think Clyde gets a bad rap. Now, Clyde is injury prone as of right now until he shakes that label free. So right now we feel like, okay, you got to cuff him. Who do you cuff him to? Isaiah Pacheco, who's got potential to win your league if you grab him now, put him on your bench. Isaiah Pacheco. Is he better than Brian Robinson? Probably not, but he could be. And I think you put him at 7. You could put him right at 7. Brian Robinson, 7.5. Isaiah Pacheco, 7. These two guys are, as of this moment, with the current waiver wire pool likely in front of your face. These two guys, Robinson and Pacheco, have the highest chance, in my opinion, as of right now, to be the best pickups of the year. 7.5 and 7. So if either one of these guys are available in your current existing league, grab them. If you haven't drafted yet, use this as a lesson that you don't want to walk out of your draft hoping to land these two guys because you forgot to draft them. Warning, shot fired. Tyler Algiere has a ton of upside. This guy is looking like the starter in my mind. Maybe he doesn't even start week 1, but they want Cordero Patterson to play more wide receiver again. This guy's strong. This guy reminds me of a Ronnie Brown. A Ronnie Brown meets, I don't know, a Brian Robinson. He's very, very strong, very talented, very hard to take down. 8 to 10 touchdown capable if he's starting all the games in 2022. Or even if he starts 13, 12 games, he could have 10 touchdowns. He really does have that potential. Ritter might be better than a lot of people think. Pickett in Pittsburgh too. I mean, Ritter could maybe march this team down the field a lot more than people think on the regular once Ritter gets his hands on the gig. And Kyle Pitts, Cordero Patterson, I mean, you got weapons here that are going to stretch the field. So I like Tyler Algiere a lot. I'd probably put him in the same rating area as Pacheco, so right around 7. I got to put him a little lower just so you can read his name, but they're Pacheco and Algiere both at about a 7 out of 10 for being the best pickup of the year. Robinson's at a 7.5. I don't want to put these guys above that because we're just getting started with the waiver wire content, and I don't think either one yet is deserving of an 8 or a 9 or a 10, but we could see Robinson on a refresh episode, maybe before week 1. Robinson, I'll do a show every single week. This is, this week's episode of the Waiver Wire Show. Next week, I'll do another pre-week 1 Waiver Wire Show. Maybe Robinson climbs up to 9 or 10. You don't know. I don't know. As of right now, 7.5. Now, I'm not going to rank going forward. I'm going to touch on these guys, but I'll give you an indication as to how high I like these guys. Like Khalil Herbert could be a potential, I don't want to call him a league winner, but he could assist you in winning your league. Now, there was a report yesterday that he was carted off the field, but it seemed like sloppy reporting. As far as I can tell, the dude was just getting a ride to the locker room on a cart, and somebody reported that he was injured. Now, maybe he did have a little tiny injury, but he's back at practice today, so don't even worry about that report. Khalil Herbert to the moon, baby.
To the moon.
I'll try and rank him over on the side here. So you got my top 3 on the far left. Khalil Herbert, we'll put him right here. We may rank someone ahead of him as we go. I'm going to start trying to drag people over in terms of like my idea for being the top pickup and how much I like them moving forward. Look, Davis Mills could win leagues. Davis Mills could actually win leagues. This guy is on waivers in a number of leagues. If you've got smaller benches, he's oftentimes sitting there on waivers. This guy could be the next, I don't want to call him next top 5 quarterback, but he could be the next like 6 to 10 quarterback in fantasy football, and he's sitting there on waivers. He's talented. He's got underrated weapons in Houston. Houston's very underrated this year, despite all the drama they're always involved in with this Watson stuff. And, they're kind of like a lesser thought of team, but they've got a lot of weapons. Cooks, they've got Nico Collins, who's also on this list I'll talk about in a second. Dameon Pierce, they've got a lot of weapons. And even Brevin Jordan, who's on this list at the bottom, there at the bottom right. A lot of talent, a lot of hidden talent, a lot of undervalued talent. Davis Mills, you were absolutely Smitty approved. And this is not even a Smitty approved segment, but I want to Smitty approve you anyway. Get it, boy.
You've just been Smitty approved.
This guy right here, Ty Davis Price, I have a feeling he's going to start more than a couple games this year. Shanahan runs his running backs into the ground. He runs his entire team into the ground, and I think there's a real opportunity for Ty Davis Price, who's a tough runner. He showed in his last preseason game in week 2 of the preseason that he can rumble and stumble and run people over. He doesn't go down with one hit. It takes multiple players to bring him down. He would actually thrive. He probably averaged, if I had to guess, 5 yards per carry in an offense that spreads out the defense because everyone's worried about where Trey Lance is on the field, less box counts. You're going to see this guy, Ty Davis Price, if he's able to rip up defenses on the regular for as many starts as he gets. So if you do own Mitchell, Elijah Mitchell, who I do like at the end of round 5, top of round 6, cuff him to Ty Davis Price. And if you don't get Mitchell, and I love the duo, I'm telling you right now, it's a very, very crafty running back 2 if you wait on your running back 2 to own Mitchell and Ty Davis Price. But if you don't own Mitchell, grab Ty Davis Price, TDP. Grab him anyway as a standalone bench guy. I'm kind of moving these guys around. I love George Pickens, man. Something about George Pickens. I really believe this kid is going to be unbelievable. Let's put him there. Who are we going to pit him against right here? I guess Dobbs. Let's put Dobbs and Pickens. I mean, honestly, probably the 2 most underrated and fun to root for players out of all the wide receivers on this list here. I believe Pickens will be the number 1 wide receiver in Pittsburgh. And on that note, we got to put Kenny Pickett on this list, especially if we're talking like Dynasty. I mean, he wouldn't be available really in Dynasty, but like maybe trade reasons or whatever, or if you're considering getting rid of him, I just want to make sure we talk about him in redraft. I mean, 2 QB leagues, you need to grab them. But Pickens and Pickett, they're going to have a connection. They're going to have a rapport that they build early on. Everybody says you're crazy for talking about Pickens over Deontay Johnson. Smitty, Deontay converted here. He did this here. His stats say this. His stats say that. I don't care. He was peppered with targets by Big Ben, who's no longer there. Big Ben was notorious for force feeding a wide receiver, and he did so with Deontay. He's not there anymore. And Kenny Pickett will soon be the starter. If not by week 1, it'll be very, very soon. I think he probably grabs the job in week 1. If he doesn't, they're crazy. If they don't give it to him in week 1, he's going to grab it by, I don't know, halftime of week 1. George Pickens has the makings of a top 10 to 12 wide receiver in fantasy football and in the NFL. Now, do I count on that in a rookie year? No. Do I expect it? No. But do I think he could become a wide receiver 3 in fantasy in his rookie year? I do think he could be a wide receiver 3 in fantasy during his rookie season and give us flashes of what's to come. Become an eventual wide receiver 2 in fantasy and maybe climb on and on and on. In 2022 redraft leagues that are existing, go check your waiver wire. Make sure he's not sitting there on waivers. He should be at least your bench wide receiver or one of your bench wide receivers and a good shot at getting into that wide receiver 3 role for you. In Dynasty, highly unlikely he's available, probably 0 chance, but maybe you could trade for him. Maybe you had him already and you're consider trading him. Hold on to him. Romeo Dobbs is very similar in that he and Pickens are like the top like unknown rookies that are kind of rising up and becoming household names already, getting on radars and people talking about them with the big dogs, the wide receivers everybody's been pushing out there all off season, like the Garrett Wilsons and the Drake Londons, and then you had the Pickens and who's this Dobbs guy? Dobbs.
Who the heck is this Dobbs guy?
Dobbs is making a name for himself very, very quickly, and A-Rod could laser lock onto him and force feed him along, mature him very quickly. A-Rod, yeah, he usually takes time with his rookie wide receivers, but he doesn't have time. He doesn't have a wide receiver room. This is the first year where he doesn't have the luxury of letting a rookie wide receiver come along slowly. He may have to force Dobbs into situations where he matures very, very fast, and I really like both these guys, and they shouldn't be available. Nico Collins, no different. Go get Nico. Nico is going to be catching footballs from this man, Davis Mills. Nico Collins is tough. He's strong. He knows how to get a jump ball, and he could arguably, I like Brandon Cooks a lot. I'm not saying he'll take over as the number 1, but he could. He's that good. He needs to be owned in all dynasty leagues. He needs to be a very end of your bench wide receiver, and he's got the potential to be every bit as good as anybody's wide receiver 3 in fantasy football 2022. I really like Jaylen Warren. He is now the backup in Pittsburgh behind Najee Harris. If you own Najee, you must cuff Jaylen Warren to Najee Harris. You must do it. It's a must cuff. This is one of those must-have handcuffs in 2022, and he's a great standalone grab at the end of your bench, because if anything happened to Najee, he would probably do pretty well. I love what I see out of this kid. Strong, ability to catch passes. He could be a 3-down back. If the Steelers get in trouble at the running back position, they can lean on this kid. I like him a lot. Make sure he's not available in your league. Zamir White, very, very similar in terms of like what we've been talking about with Ty Davis Price and Jaylen Warren. Tons of upside, very strong runner. Could easily become a starter at some point during the year, even if it's 4 games, 5 games, or like week 10 on. He could be the future of the running attack from week 10 on, or he could play 1 or 2 games. So we don't really know, but if he gets in there, he should produce very well in a very high octane offense that wants to feed the football to the running back. I like this pickup right now. He shouldn't be available in any format redraft. He's definitely not going to be available in Dynasty, but we got to cover it from all angles here. We are an all-encompassing redraft Dynasty fantasy football show. I think Alex Pierce needs to be grabbed. I mean, this kid could be, everyone keeps talking about Pittman. I like Pittman too, but this kid looks really good. Wouldn't shock me if he over-delivered by an extreme amount and could become a wide receiver 3-4 in fantasy football redraft. He definitely is a great grab in Dynasty. Probably not available in a lot of leagues, but make sure he's not available in even redraft leagues. He's a great end of your bench wide receiver that can come in on bye weeks or become eventually your wide receiver 3 if all goes well. I love McKenzie and Shakir. I like Shakir a little more actually, but they're talking up McKenzie a lot. But Shakir is one of the most undrafted players on this entire list. And if you're in best ball underdog fantasy drafts, which you can go to Underdog Fantasy by clicking the link in the description using promo code Smitty, and they'll match up to $100 on your first deposit on Underdog. But if you're looking for a potential player that nobody has, and you're at the end of your draft and you're like, man, I need a wide receiver and I've got no one to look at, this guy Khalil Shakir is a great player to snag at the very end of your best ball draft. And not a lot of people are going to own him. So as my boy Ron Navy always says, especially with Jaylen Warren, who he likes as well, you get a difference maker that no one else is going to have on the roster, and something pops with that player, then you can separate yourself in best ball. So just a little gem, a
Couple gems right there.
Jaylen Warren and Shakir. Not a lot of people are going to own them, so they're nice to have on your bench in case they pop. Keep an eye on KJ Hamler in case something happens to one of those other wide receivers in Sutton and Judy, and even as the wide receiver 3, he could do well in Denver. I love Juwan Dodson and what we're seeing out of him in Washington. Tyler the Beatty Batty could be the starter in Baltimore at some point. You got the all ACL team running up that running back room over in Baltimore, and J.K. Dobbins and Gus the Bus. So I don't trust either one. I'm not a J.K. Dobbins believer at all, coming off an ACL tear in a running back by committee with a quarterback that vultures touchdowns. It's red flags galore. And Beatty's got a lot of upside, so we'll put him right there. Kyron Williams, broken foot, but coming back from that. And you got Akers and Henderson both struggling with injury. Kyron could get some run.
More Ollie Cox.
Catching footballs from Matt Ryan. I really like him as a tight end sleeper. I love Tyler Huntley if he ever gets an opportunity. Don't bring me a bunch of hate on this one, but I have a feeling that he's starting multiple games this year. Lamar Jackson runs too much. Lamar Jackson has run a lot in his career already. It's not like you could say to me, Smitty, but Josh Allen runs. Hey, you like Hurts, but Hurts runs. Lamar's run a lot already. Some of it is the mileage that's been adding up, and the way they use him, the way they rely upon him, the way they try and change his offense up on him and make him play differently and try and control him, and it puts him in vulnerable spots. You take away his number one wide receiver in Hollywood Brown. Now what's going to happen? They want to run more than ever, and they have two running backs, their top two running backs, coming back from ACL tears. I just smell disaster for Lamar, who's had 2 rough years in a row where he's disappointed fantasy owners. He has 2 years in a row. I break it down all the time. People come at me and say, no, he didn't. No, he did. Yes, he did. In 2020, he disappointed. In 2021, he got hurt and he disappointed. And I don't care if injuries don't sound like disappointments to you. They're disappointments to me. Ask Christian McCaffrey owners or Barkley owners or Mike Thomas owners if injuries are a form of bust. Of course they are. And Lamar Jackson worries me when he walks into an offense that they raptured his number one wide receiver away. They want to gear the offense more toward running the football, and they have 2 ACL recovering running backs leading the way, which is why I like Tyler the Beatty Batty. But Tyler Huntley should be owned in dynasty leagues everywhere. Mahomes loves this tight end. We talked about this on our Zoom call today. If you want in on the Zoom calls, you just click on this blue join button on the main YouTube homepage of my channel, and you can join the $9.99 YouTube exclusive membership plan. Cancel anytime. It's all done through YouTube securely. And we do 2 Zoom calls every single Sunday, one at halftime of the morning games, one at halftime of the Sunday evening game. We break down all the buy lows, sell highs, the top waiver wire grabs. You can have your mic off and your camera off. You can just listen, but it's amazing. It's the best thing, the best product I have, frankly, to chill with you guys all Sunday. And we talked about this guy right here.
Watson.
Caught 2 touchdown passes, I believe, from Mahomes yesterday. Mahomes loves him. And if something happened to Kelsey, he'd go crazy. Pickett, already talked about Pickett. Gerald Everett's the tight end in LA, catching footballs from Justin Herbert. Brevin Jordan's going to catch footballs from my boy Davis Mills, another weapon. Like I said earlier, you got Davis Mills, you got Brevin Jordan, you got Nico Collins. This is a very underrated Houston attack. That's your early look at the waiver wire week 1, pre-week 1. Waiver Wire, episode 1. We'll do a refresh of this next week. No one does Waiver Wire like your boy Smitty, where we use a scale of confidence, a confidence level, and Brian Robinson leads the way with a 7.5. A 7.5 confidence level of being the best pickup of the year. We'll, of course, have higher numbers than that as the season goes along. He might be the guy that goes higher, because it could be a repeat player. But for right now, Brian Robinson, Isaiah Pacheco, and Tyler Algiere are your top 3 pickups right now most likely to be the highest percentage chance so far for best pickups of the year. Get on over to thefantasyfootballshow.com. Get your lifetime membership, your one-on-one text advice with me, trade calculator, bull predictions, articles galore. Thefantasyfootballshow.com. That's my content site. Go get your content. Now get out of here.
This is the Fantasy Football Show with your host, Smitty.